Hello again, and welcome to A River Between Chaos and Zen, the poetry podcast from Creative Actors Lab. My name is Max, and as always, Kelly sends her love. I wanted to continue a bit speaking about mental health. I think this is such a subject that in the world we live in, it really needs to be addressed, and frankly, we all need to take care of ourselves. Because whether we want to admit it or not, the stuff affects everyone at one time or other, some worse than others. I had a very good friend who has since passed on. But there was a guy who really had his share of troubles and tribulations and outright disasters in his life. And he would never admit that he was depressed, but you could always tell when he was going through things because I guess he was just like a frustrated stand-up comic. And anytime he was really going through stuff, the joke machine, he would just crank that up and he would be making stupid jokes about everything. And it frankly got to be a bit much. I love the guy, but shut the hell up, dude. I mean, and I even had said to him, it's like, dude, I can always tell you're trying to escape the turmoil in your head by making jokes. And we all have, and sometimes that really worked for him. And other times it really didn't. But that was the only mechanism he really had to cope with what he was going through. I would get these phone calls on a very regular basis, particularly when he was going through a divorce and when he was having some really, really bad health problems. And I would get these phone calls. The first hour of which would be just documenting all the stuff he was going through with his ex-wife and the stuff that was going on with these doctor checkups and the problems he was having in his family and all this other stuff. And I would get, and this is not an exaggeration, I would get about 45 minutes to an hour of documenting all that stuff while I listened. He was not looking for answers. He was not looking for conversation. He was just looking for somebody to just shut up and listen. And that's what I did. And to be perfectly honest with you, it got pretty exhausting. But then, whatever amount of time he put into just the retelling of all the hell and crap and problems and animosity and problems and crap that he was going through in his life, I would get literally double the amount of time after that of him just wanting to tell jokes. And or just recounting about how he had talked about, something had happened, and he said this, and something was happening, and he made a joke to the person, and they were cracking up about it. And it was his way of trying to heal himself. And he's been gone for a few years now, and he and I, to be honest with you, had a pretty bad falling out that never really got repaired. But, he would tell me about, one of his kids, his daughter, would get very depressed, and it's like, and she doesn't, and it's like, one of the things was, well, my daughter doesn't want to speak to me. I was like, well, why is that? Oh, she says she's depressed, and I tell her to snap out of it, and she doesn't snap out of it, and I ask, what's wrong with her? And I just remember saying to him, and he was just, at one point he was just retelling me, his daughter came to him and said that she was depressed, and he responded, I don't remember specifically how, but it was this very, it was condescending, dismissive, and he tried to make a joke out of everything, and now she doesn't want to talk to him anymore. And I remember saying to him words to the effect of, I don't blame her. I mean, your daughter comes to you and she says that, and you respond with whatever the fuck that was, this unfeeling, uncaring, dismissive, I'm going to make light of everything that you're going through, and you're supposed to snap out of it. Fuck you, dude. Jesus fucking Christ. How dare you speak to your daughter that way? And then I said to him, you know, I get depressed all the time. And I got the, you get depressed? No, you don't get to. Yes, I do, dude. I've lived with this shit my entire life, okay? I've lived with depression, anxiety. I mean, I've been diagnosed as borderline OCD and CPTSD and all this stuff. And it's like, but you have all this energy, and you're so positive, and you're so smart, and you're so this and that, and lucid and well spoken, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, dude, that's what it's like on the outside. What's going on the inside sometimes is I'm struggling just as much as anybody. And I can't make jokes about it because there's sometimes the humor really works for you. Sometimes it does, and then sometimes it really doesn't, and then sometimes you just got to let it out. And sometimes crying is the most cathartic thing you can do. But I wrote this poem. I have two things I wanted to share specifically, but these are two of my poems that I wrote. The first one I wrote many years ago when I was going through a pretty bad bout of depression and anxiety and other mental health fuckery, and I was trying to make a joke of it myself. And in this instance, I think it helped. And the poem's called "I've Got the Blues," and that basically comes from my love of the Mississippi Delta blues players. And I've loved blues music my entire life, but particularly those guys, the Robert Johnson, Son House, Muddy Waters, Little Walter, the Memphis Minnie McCoy, people like, the people like that, because they were really pouring out their heart and soul, and they had nothing other than their voice and their words and probably a cheap ass guitar and a harmonica, and that was their medicine. And I've always loved the blues, but that's the reason I think I really, really admire that kind of music as much as I do. But anyway, this is called I've Got the Blues. I've got the blues. Do you hear what I've said? I've got the blues and would be better off dead. I've got streets made for running and ghosts in my head. I said, I've got the blues and you people don't care. You're so true to form, and I've got snakes in my hair. My mojo stopped working and my pecker fell off. I've got the blues and I've got a bad cough. My wife's gone and left me for a transvestite named Spike. These blues are so bad, I'll be taking my life. By hanging or drowning, or I'll slash my damn wrists. By pills or explosion or a combination of these, I'm on the verge of implosion and down on my knees. My market is crashing and I'm left all alone, plagued by the devil making obscene calls to my phone. I hate my life in this hand of cards. I've got the blues. It's exceedingly hard. I can't make a living and I can't get ahead. I've got the blues. What more can be said? I've got a bad case of the egg-sucking, dog-kicking, down on my luck, pack up my suitcase and go fuck a duck blues that are hung by the chimney with care, fueled by cheap wine and funded by welfare. I'm the original Negro and you can kiss my white ass, 'cause these blues know no boundary of race, creed, or class. I'm dining on scorpions down by the river, waiting for he who has forsaken me to arrive and deliver. But these blues are as thick as pea soup in winter, and the big man ain't coming. It's his nose that he's thumbing at me and all my descendants. I've got the blues, and you think you've got it bad? In this apartment of pain, I'm the only tenant, kicked in the nuts by my mom and my dad before the doc cut the cord I couldn't pay my rent. I've manufactured these blues, and I keep them well hung. They keep me from putting on airs. All this death, doom, and destruction have a divine function to keep me acutely aware of the hills and the valleys on this roller coaster flow. When I stick in my thumb and pull out a plum and think I have nowhere to go, so don't tell me your worries. I've enough of my own. I've got the blues, and it's a full-time occupation to embody this depression and procrastination. The weight of the world is getting obese, and this ironclad contract has no clause for release. And though I've got the blues, don't count me out. I'm the world's foremost expert on denial and doubt. And one of these days, when they're all dropping bombs, I'll be safe in my blues when the world's dead and gone. And that last bit, I'm reminded of this one guy that I used to work with, who, when I think back on, and he was a good guy. He was a very, very good, very, very, very smart guy. Very, basically a good guy. And he was very intelligent. But I don't think he ever had one positive thing to say about anything, and everything sucked, and everything in the world was terrible, and everybody was shit, and fuck these people, and it was just terrible. And he was described as a ray of fucking sunshine. And I worked side by side, shoulder to shoulder with this guy for a couple of years. And what I think he was trying to do is because he was very, very intelligent, mathematically very, really sharp guy, mechanically, as far as like systems and things like that, when in logistics, he was a really, really super bright guy, but just terminally depressed. And I think he used to intellectualize his depression, to try to justify it, to try to make sense of it, just why he would just wake up every morning and go, "Oh fuck this shit," and he just tried to justify it with his intellect. For myself, I wanted to share one more poem. This is something I wrote several years after this. There's here in Georgia, the area I generally live in, there's a place called Davidson Arabia Mountain, and it's not close to where we live, but I do make a special trip out there several times a year. And just generally speaking, just for my own mental health, one of the things that living where we live, we live close to big cities and traffic and pollution and giant, big old corporate buildings and stuff, but nature is never very far away. And I will say this for myself, in that anytime I am really feeling like crap, which is getting less and less these days, knock on wood, just go out in nature. And Kelly, my wife, has said many times when we go walking in the woods or whatever, she basically says, the forest is my church. And I tend to agree with that. The forest is my it's my chapel, it's my cathedral, it's my place of respite. But I love this mountain. I love this. It's a very ancient place. If you're ever in it's sort of east of, it's several exits east of downtown Atlanta, Davidson Arabia Mountain, Davidson Arabia Nature Preserve. It's a lovely, lovely place. there's no way you can see it all in one day, but I absolutely love the place. And I always go there, and whenever I come back, I always feel better than I did when I first walk in. And I will say also, there's additionally there's a chef I follow, been following, Marco Pierre White. He supposedly he was like the original celebrity chef, and he was considered just one of these, he supposedly he made Gordon Ramsay cry, which I think is hysterical. But he was considered in his day, he was considered the enfant terrible, or however you pronounce it, basically. Just a crazy madman of a chef. And when he was much younger, and now as he's gotten older, you can find him on YouTube. He did a bunch of stuff for the BBC and master classes and things like that. And now, when you watch Marco Pierre White, he's got this very soft baritone, proper accent, and everything is very soft and very gentle. And somebody who comes from all that craziness, he just, a lot of the comments you read about him is like, no, he's like the Zen master, teaching how to make beef bourguignon and pomme fondant and all these other lovely old French recipes that I love so much. But he was talking about how, and he's got a great story. If just as somebody who spent a couple of decades working in other people's kitchens, if you're, because so I'm kind of a chef nerd in that way, but he basically got really, really famous, and he got all these Michelin stars and all this international acclaim, and then he finally said, I'm done. And he walked away. And I was watching him recently, as I do quite frequently, even though I don't cook professionally anymore. And he said he left all that craziness, and there was no more. He said, I'm only going to cook for my family and friends, and there's no more pressure, and I can do this purely out of love. And he said, he said when he left the kitchen, when he left the stove, and they said, I left my stove and I missed her very, very much. But he said, I was unemployed, I was unemployable, and he said, I did what I did when I was a small boy, and I went out into nature. And that's where he said he regained his, I don't know what you want to call it, his presence of mind, his center, his zen, whatever you want to call it. But I know how that feels, for whatever it's worth. And I wrote this poem about one day when I came back from Davidson Arabian Mountain. And it's called The Mountain, go figure. It goes like this. The mountain was happy today. She told me of when she was pregnant, and the sky was the cock and the clouds the nectar that swelled her belly, and she blossomed yellow, red, crimson, and lavender flowers then, like she did today. Her pools full filled with heaven's scented ambrosia, sun glistening on the surface of ancient rain collections, the wind caressing her clitoris, reciprocating drenching lovers' kisses from her softened granite lips. The mountain told me of the Aeon, when she fell in love with the sky of the clandestine affairs forbidden between heaven and earth, a long ascension of struggling, like I today, transcending her slopes, averting disaster, tumbling down precipices, avoiding crushing at the vortex of vicious, pardon me, averting disaster, tumbling down precipices, avoiding crushing at the vortex of visages. The mountain found me eager to listen today, and silent of wordplay, attempting to invoke the demons I rely upon to soothe my angel's constant consternation. I have come to regard as white noise and static on this path I claim not to understand, but traverse, ascend, and endure upon this mountain that I place my boots on her foothills, every single step in time, marking my determination to overcome myself and become, like this mountain, ever pregnant and resolute, to reside above the bondage and converge with the cities of the unscarred sky. Take care of yourselves, everybody, please. Take care of yourselves. We need you and we need each other. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way.